Come on now, fellas! We've got to answer the bell. Now let's go!
Welcome into Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Young, Mo Patton on this Thursday edition, and boy, what a beautiful Thursday it is. It is so nice outside until you actually go outside. Then it's less nice, but
It looks nice.
at least it's pretty.
It's deceptively nice. Yeah.
It is deceptively nice, but it is a Thursday, and after what we've had, the last couple of weeks, I'll take it.
Mhm.
I'd much rather it be sunny and cold if it's going to be cold rather than rainy and cold. So
Right.
we'll go with what we got, and we'll appreciate it, I guess. Mo, how are things going today?
Well, we've had
Considering.
this discussion offline. I guess things are about as well as could be expected.
Could be worse.
It could be worse. It absolutely could be worse. So, yeah, I mean, weather's nice, or it looks nice from in here. And guess I'll be getting out in it following the show, going over here to Murfreesboro for the celebration. Happy birthday, Murphy Center.
Did you procure Chip's extra tickets, or did you already have some?
I already had some. I did not procure Chip's extra tickets. I will not be sitting on the floor this time. I'm not quite sure how to act, actually, considering the seats I've had the last couple of times I've been there. So
Yeah, it's it'll be a bit of a change, but
yeah,
it's gonna be a really cool night.
I'll get to see how the other half lives.
There you go. It is going to be a great night, though, at Murphy Center, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the opening of
Mhm.
said Murphy Center. It's going to be a lot of fun throughout this show too, because we have two fantastic guests on this. I guess it's kind of a prep Thursday. It's not like it has been,
Mhm.
but we do have Coach's Corner coming up, and Adam SONN will join us from talk a little Good Pasture hoops, former Belmont star, and the executive director of the TSSAA, Mark Reeves, will join us and talk a little about high school amateur rule changes. That's what I'm going to call it. Not using the other term for now.
I think that's the safest way to go. Really.
The change to the amateur rule,
Mhm.
and what that means, and get into that a little bit. So it should be a lot of fun. We've also, of course, got some bowl games that will kick off before we get on the air tomorrow, Mo. So we'll have to pick those two before we get into the rest of the bowl pick'em. So we've got two games to pick. At least one of them does at least include a team in the general vicinity of us. The other, well, I guess both of them include Alabama teams. So there's that. So we'll get into that and a little bit more college football crazy stuff going on right now. I mean, absolutely nuts. Let's be honest. So we'll get into the wild and wacky world of college football, even if it isn't Wednesday.
Exactly.
But before we do any of that, we give you yesterday's results and today's schedule. We do it on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Wednesday basketball action. Tennessee's women picked up a 99-64 win over Central Florida. Also, speaking of Murphy Center, the Lady Raiders at the Glass House almost squandered a 22-point lead before defeating Houston 68-61. Men's basketball action. Charleston Southern defeats Tennessee State 91-87. Lipscomb holds on for a 64-63 win over visiting Tennessee Tech.
Today's schedule, basketball doubleheaders tonight. Starting at 5 o'clock, Clarksville will be at McGavock. And at 5:30, Creekwood is down at Loretto. The rest of these games at 6 p.m. with boys to follow. Hillwood at Antioch. Community hosting Franklin Road Christian. Richland goes to Eagleville. Christian Community is at Ezo Harding. Fairview hosts Portland. Franklin Christian hosting STEM Academy. Hampshire goes to Lewis County. Maplewood is at Liberty Creek. Harpeth goes to Montgomery Central. Moore County hosting Culleoka. Siegel's at Shelbyville. And Clarksville Northwest is at West Creek.
Girls only games all at 6 o'clock. Brentwood is at Kenwood. Webb School hosts Clarksville Christian. Western Kentucky Homeschool plays at Tennessee Heat. That game will be followed at 7:30 by a boys game between the Bluegrass Blazers and the host Tennessee Heat, wherever the Tennessee Heat hosts.
You can keep going, Mo.
Okay.
That's not me. That is Justin that's highlighted.
Oh, okay. In women's basketball action, Tennessee State and Baylor are in progress out in Waco. 5:30 tips. Georgetown College is at Cumberland over in Lebanon, and University of the Cumberlands, not to be confused with Cumberland University, is at UT Southern. That's a 5:30 start as well. In men's basketball, oh, go ahead.
That Baylor Tennessee State score, I don't even know if we should even say it. Lady Bears 93, Tennessee State 27.
Is that a final?
That's a final.
Okay. All right. Men's basketball action, as we mentioned, 6 o'clock tonight. You can see it on ESPN Plus. UT Chattanooga is at MTSU. At 7:30, the back half of the doubleheader between Georgetown College and host Cumberland. Also at 7:30, second half of a doubleheader, University of the Cumberlands at UT Southern. In NHL action, the Predators are at the Jets of Winnipeg, continuing their Western swing. 7 o'clock puck drop on Bally Sports South. And also at 7 o'clock in the association, Milwaukee is at Memphis. That can be seen on NBA TV. And that is your rundown.
Top story today. A little callback.
Continuation, as they call it in the NBA.
There you go. This young man, Devin Starling, who we spoke about yesterday on the show, has entered the transfer portal. and as I said on Twitter, it's probably for the best at this time. And it's unfortunate.
Change of scenery might do everybody some good here.
Yeah, I feel bad because, Cane Ridge kid, he's a Nashville guy. And was
transferred back here from Memphis.
Yeah, and so he'll be in the portal with 2 years of eligibility. But yeah, I mean, there's no way you can stay in that situation at that point, right? I mean, you got to go just to get out of the situation.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's not football related, But yeah, this town ain't big enough for the three of us.
Clearly. So Devin Starling will be making his way to the portal and find himself with 2 years of eligibility left. Like I said,
You know what would be interesting, Chris? It would be interesting to get into the portal and build a team out of the portal.
I bet we could compete in. So seriously, I mean, I bet you could compete
Without question.
just with a brand new team.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good thought. I don't. There's.
I
Not
mean,
like
I don't.
a website out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who has access to who's in the portal necessarily, other than whatever announcements get made via social media channels. But yeah, I think it would be interesting to see who's in there, construct a team, and let somebody tell you how competitive said team would be.
There is a transfer portal tracker out there. I know CBS had one at one time. It looks like The Athletic also has one.
Okay, cool.
So let's see. I don't see anything that a Georgia Tech quarterback, Tyson P. Have you ever seen this guy's last name?
I have not.
P-H-O-M-M-A-C-H-A-N-H. His name is Famicon.
Sure.
Tyson Famicon. I mean, I guess that's a guy. Quarterbacks, maybe Emory Jones, or no, I would. You got to go with Grayson McCall, right?
I would think
Grayson McCall would definitely be the best quarterback available now that Austin Reed has decided to go back.
Well, and now that Cade McNamara is at Iowa, which he didn't stay in the portal a hot minute anyway. But yeah,
he just dipped his toe into the portal and jumped all the way from Michigan to Iowa.
You almost wonder if that wasn't
tampering
in the works. Yeah,
you could certainly make that make that assumption. Miami running back Jalen Knighton, who ran for 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns over 3 seasons, had 8 rushing scores and 3 receiving scores in 2021. I think he would be a pretty solid option at running back.
What do you have against Middle?
Oh, I have no idea. Probably not much, because I don't guess anybody had a whole lot against.
Yeah, exactly.
Against Middle for Miami. Let's see. That was in 2022 against. Let's see here. It doesn't go back that far on the 2 attempts, 1 yard, 1 reception for -3 yards, and lost a fumble. That's tough.
Jeez. Okay.
But let's see. Wide receivers, I think every wide receiver at Cincinnati is a portal. Like Jaden Thompson and Nick Martin are both in the portal. I don't know. Martin's a 6'6" guy who had 19 catches, 3 touchdowns. Jaden Thompson had 27 catches for nearly 400 yards and a score, but he had 47 catches in his career. Now, I don't know. They may be options, but yeah, dude, this is actually this is pretty good. Sean Dollars, Oregon running back, was a number 164 in the ESPN 300 2 years ago. Ran 34 times for 188 yards and a touchdown this season. So, yeah, there you go. That is an interesting idea, Mo.
Every now and then.
I must say
I know a little something.
That was a fantastic idea. I really, really like that scenario.
We could always get JT Daniels.
Him and his frequent flyer miles in the transfer portal.
Yeah, exactly. Also, real quick, secondary top story. Mo, the NFL is considering ejections for roughing the passer, and
considering what they're calling roughing the passer, they better not.
That's what I was going to say. You've said it on Twitter. We've all thought it. Put flags on these guys.
Put flags on the quarterbacks and let's tackle everybody else.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
It's gotten ridiculous. It really has. And so now you're going to compound it by ejecting somebody for laying a guy down?
Probably not the best idea that the NFL's ever had.
That's relative, though. Because, again, it's the NFL.
Yeah, but
I mean, of all the bad ideas they've had, this probably ranks as one of the 10 worst. And there's probably 10 at least I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a great idea just for the sheer fact that there's no real rhyme or reason as to how they
officiate that to start with.
Right. How they call that particular play. So I feel like I would say no to that.
I can't see any good coming out of that.
No, I agree. All right. Well, we've given you our thoughts.
JT Daniels, USC, Georgia, and West Virginia.
Correct.
And now on the move yet again. I think there ought to be some type of stipulation because the transfer portal needs addressing. But
you're only supposed to get one free one, but apparently he got two. Because I guess since he's
been immediately eligible everywhere.
Yeah, he has gotten waivers or whatever. I mean, maybe, buddy, try some place that's, maybe try like, I don't know, Coastal Carolina.
Well, hey, right. I mean,
they need a quarterback.
But I mean, and that's kind of where I was going. Maybe after your first transfer, you should have to drop down
or sit out. That's the rule. But they're giving waivers out like it's dadgum strawberry candies at church.
He was at USC in 18 and 19. Started as a true freshman in 18. Tore his ACL in the season opener in 19. Okay. So I imagine he was redshirted there. 20, he was at Georgia. Opted out due to COVID-19 concerns. No, that's Jamie Newman. I'm sorry. I'm scanning through his wiki. But played sparingly in 20 at Georgia.
Yeah, didn't play much at all.
And then got beat out by Heisman Trophy finalist Stetson Bennett in 2021. And again, was at West Virginia this year.
Where he got beat out again.
Well, he completed 200 of 327 passes for 2,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, 9 picks. So he played in 10 games and started all 10 of them. I don't know.
Okay, maybe he did.
I don't know what happened.
Well, then what are you doing?
I don't know. But where's he going? I mean, where at this point do you go? I mean, you're leaving a Big 12 school. Again, you've played in the SEC. You've played in the Pac-12. Where are you going?
Well, the Big 10 and
the ACC?
ACC loom, I guess. I don't know.
Getting his passport stamped. Man,
exactly.
Amazing. Yeah. All right.
Let's take a break. Adam Sonn will talk some good pasture Cougar hoops on the other side of this break. So stick around with us here on Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll be back after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yao, Mo Patton here, and it is time to hand out a little hardware, Mo, before we get to Coach's Corner. And we start with the End to Win Life Team of the Week here in Southern Middle Tennessee, brought to you by our friends at Custom Stone Handlers. The End to Win Life Team of the Week this week, Mo?
Columbia Central's Lady Lions won 3 games last week, defeated Centennial 56-26, Marshall County 50-29, and on the road at Laverne, they doubled up the Lady Wolverines 51-25. So that 3-0 performance last week earns the Lady Lions second-year coach Megan Moore our End to Win Life Team of the Week distinction. So congratulations to them.
And the Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Southern Middle Tennessee Athlete of the Week.
You saw her in one of her 2 games. Averaged 21 points a game last week for the Columbia Academy Lady Bulldogs, and very consistent, 22 in one and 20 in the other. So senior guard Maddie Lewis is our Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Athlete of the Week.
Congratulations to Maddie. And now on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe out in Chapel Hill. Renee Hart and the fine folks keeping you fed and happy, whether it be breakfast in their breakfast trailer or catering to your next event. Make sure to go see Renee Hart and the fine folks at From the Heart Cafe, presenting Coach's Corner each and every week. And a guy, no stranger to hardware, Mo, 2-time ASUN, all ASUN performer and ASUN Player of the Year when he was playing for the Belmont Bruins. As you see his jersey hanging behind him, Adam SONN joins us now. Adam, how are you, buddy?
Oh, good. Nice segue there. What are the odds that happened? No, things are going good. I appreciate you guys having me on. Exam week at GoodPasture starting up middle of this week and early into the next week. We're experimenting with a new schedule. So basketball doesn't stop though, and critical time of the year as well, as we've got a league game this week. So trying to balance a few things.
Chris, I think it's kind of cool. And as we do these video interviews with these different coaches, it's like the video is catching on. These guys and ladies are setting up their backgrounds and that kind of thing. I mean, that's a really cool scene setter there, Adam. That's that's
just for you guys. I got this done in about 30 minutes. It was good. Planned to practice. We decorated the office. Now I got a good setup down here in the corner of the gym with a nice area I can kind of get to, and I spend a lot of time in as well.
Well, that's great. That's great. Adam, wanted to get you on because you guys have gotten off to a really solid start, and that 100-19 win last week over Mount Juliet Christian really kind of caught my eye. But if the information I've got is correct, you guys are 6-1 right now, and that's with Vanderbilt commitment, Vanderbilt signee Isaiah West playing pretty sparingly as he continues to come back from a knee injury. To be able to perform at the level that you all have to this point without arguably your best player, that's pretty promising for the Cougars, I would think.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, kind of like you said, it's November and early December basketball will look different than January and February basketball for sure, for all of us in this world. But to allude kind of to what you were saying, we are fortunate to have the biggest group in terms of seniors that I've ever coached in my time at USN and now Good Pasture for the majority. We've got 8 seniors, so leadership, depth, and talent as well. It's a good mix there. So obviously, when Isaiah went down around New Year's last year, for us to kind of be able, it wasn't a right away pick up and move on. We had to figure some things out. How do we play best? What do we emphasize most? Things like that. But to make a run and still make the final game with him not being there, and now adding him back into the mix, but also understanding he's got a lot more basketball after Good Pasture to play. But at the same time, letting him, his hard work and rehabilitation and all that stuff to get back for his senior year, not holding that against him at all. It's that balance right now that you kind of alluded to. So we're playing him in 4-minute stretches, and that'll continue to grow just based on kind of how he feels. We've been great in communication with our athletic training staff, our strength coaches, just constant communication with him, things like that. But at the same time, would expect his minutes and his production in January to look better than December, and then February even better than January. So a little bit of a culmination of him getting back, plus a deep senior class, and then some know-how from the last couple of years from other guys as well.
I imagine, Adam, that's a really interesting dynamic, because when you've got a player with the talent of an Isaiah West, you want to turn him loose and let him go, sure. But you also know that he's less than a year out from tearing an ACL, and you've got the luxury of having a boatload of talent aside from him. But sometimes I would imagine it's tough to be a coach and not be a fan and just want to watch that kid.
Right. Well, and you've done this a while, and you have a great insight to knowing exactly the parts of that question right there. And yes, we do want him to become more aggressive, but at the same time, we've not changed his position by any means. A good basketball player is a good basketball player, but he is handling the ball as our point guard truly more than he was as a really dynamic scorer off the ball the last couple years. So that being said, if he's going to play a point guard for Vanderbilt, or a combo guard spot as well for them, he definitely can command those responsibilities here. Yes, we're going to want and need some production as this season goes, even more so, and as his minutes go up, and turn him loose in ways. But at the same time, I mean, it's a serious injury, and to be, athletically and medically cleared and healthy, that's great. Okay. Mm-hmm. And for us to be cautious, and by the time he picked up a basketball and was going more contact and 5-on-5, we were obviously very careful with that. But at the same time, even somebody to his talent level, Power 5, senior, and going to play in the Power 5, you don't do something for 8 months. It's not just a snap of the finger, and it's all ready and comes back. It's still building up in that regard. But our schedule so far, we've seen kind of both ends of the spectrum. So the numbers and the minutes don't tell all the story right there. But at the same time, we want it to keep building and understand January, February. Okay, are those goals, and he understands that as a mature kid, a hard worker, but he's working on other parts of his game, enjoying being part of this team with his friends, and having a little bit different role too as more point guard.
Coach, you mentioned you have a deep senior class, and you do have a deep senior class. A lot of leadership on this team, including Isaiah and several others. But it's a couple young guys who seem to be getting it done for you on the scoreboard. And King Carey and Jaden Jones, those guys have been putting up big numbers. How important is it for them to be able to contribute on a team that is so senior heavy with a lot of leaders around them?
Well, they're returning starters. I mean, they started as freshmen. King is a very savvy guard. Plays off the ball, makes some plays happen just with high IQ. He's really worked. He's more explosive, which you see a lot of these younger guys from year to year that really continue to work on their game, get in the weight room, things like that, all come to play. So, you can never have too many guards. But at the same time, Jaden kind of took over as our top threat. Once Isaiah went down last year, I think he averaged 18 points, eight or 9 rebounds the rest of the way throughout the season, all the way to the state championship. So they are young, but at the same time, they're not anybody new that is surprising us in our locker room or our walls here. And hard workers, good kids, good teammates, and combining that with the senior class and the depth and things of that nature, it's online to potentially be ready for a good run again. But you got to make it happen every day, and we got a big game tomorrow, and that's something we can't lose focus of.
Good Pasture Boys coach Adam SONN joining us here on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe over in Chapel Hill. You mentioned that game tomorrow night. You've got Nashville Christian coming into your place, Coach. And as Chris mentioned, King Carey and Jalen kind of picking up the slack for you a little bit with Isaiah out. But I'm sorry, Jaden. Just speaks to the depth that you guys have. And to be able to be as competitive without an SEC signee just has to be pretty impressive for folks watching this team. Again, you guys made a deep run, made it to the championship game in Division IIA last year, and Clarksville Academy still kind of hanging out there, I guess.
Yeah, they're nothing new to us either. We talked about Jaden and King being staples for the last couple of years, but yeah, Clarksville Academy. I think we played 4 times last year. I think we won 3 of those. And I don't think if you added up all those scores that there was 10 points worth of difference. So Eddie Ricks is a great player, matchup nightmare at 6'6", 6'7". They played a couple games in front of us at Kentucky Hoop Fest a couple of weeks ago. So they're not intimidated by us. We are going to be, ready to play them as well. 104.5 actually is coming in and doing that as a high school game of the week. So the first week in January, Clarksville Academy at Good Pasture. That's nothing new, but they've got a good returning group back and led by Eddie and the team that knows us well and vice versa. So it's a dogfight every time. So it's good for our district personally to go head to head. And there's other capable teams in our league for sure as well. But at the same time, when a district championship, a region championship, and 2 of us are in the state Final Four, it speaks to the night in, night out, what you got to be ready to do in our side of D2.
Coach, obviously Clarksville Academy looms out there, defending state champion. FACS doesn't seem to be going anywhere after they took care of Lebanon.
We'll talk about that. I don't mean to interrupt you. They graduated 7 seniors, and they're not dropping off the ball. So that might be your next call.
So what is it to about your program that allows you guys to be right there in that conversation with some of the top programs in the state, year in and year out?
Well, we're fortunate in a lot of regards, but at the same time, I would say our kids. I mean, that's the thing. hopefully buying into what we are preaching in terms of our culture, respecting the game, respecting each other, standard of excellence, work ethic, all of the things that they hear and their ears bleed from, and being part of something bigger than themselves, but at the same time understanding it's not going to just be the class that graduates in front of you and now it's my time to play. You're going to get out what you put in. So obviously being able to have a middle school here on campus, a 5th and 6th grade program, you obviously, see some of that materialize along the way of who works at an early age. And then at the same time, once you get up to the high school stage, who's put the work in and who is coachable and who it means a lot to. And then as the coaches, it's our job to put the puzzle together, but it starts with the kids and their work and their motivation to be, good at this.
Adam SONN joining us here on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe out in Chapel Hill. Again, Renee Hart and the fine folks keeping you fed and happy. Coach, you ever find yourself down here in Southern Middle Tennessee, head to Henry Horton or something like that, make sure to go see Renee, and she'll take care of you. We promise. And we appreciate you taking care of us today and joining us here for a few minutes to talk about your Cougars basketball team. We look forward to everything you got going on the rest of the year. Hopefully we will see you in the Glass House at the end of the year. Or no, you guys play at Lipscomb, right? Is it Lipscomb or Tennessee
we
Tech?
did. We play at Tennessee Tech now. They've done an incredible job. Incredible job. The city of Cookeville and Tennessee Tech. It's a great venue for these high school state Final Fours in Division II. And I hope it stays there for a while.
Yeah, they do a great job with those. Do you guys get we need to find out, Mo, if they've got the cider, because if so, we need to go
got the cinnamon apple cider. Yeah.
Then we need to go to some D2 championship games. but we do hope that we see you in that state championship conversation throughout the year, and we look forward to what's coming up the rest of this year and tomorrow night against Nashville Christian. Good luck.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Mo, it's always interesting when we get these coaches to talk about their kids, because they love talking about them, and we love to hear about them. That's why we do what we do. It's all about the kids, and it's impressive what they've been able to do at Good Pasture so far. Just keeping it going with young kids, seniors, and it's not easy to do that sometimes when you've got freshmen who are really contributing on a team of upperclassmen. That jealousy can be a real thing, and for them to be able to take care of that and not have to deal with it as an issue is pretty impressive.
Yeah, a lot of these coaches have to be part tacticianer and part technician. There we go.
There you go.
Part psychologist. Because you got to manage some egos, and probably even more so now than ever. But what fascinates me,
you got to Phil Jackson it.
Yeah. What fascinates me is seeing the talent that you see at some of these smaller schools. Again, and Isaiah West at the D2A level signing with Vanderbilt, SEC Power 5. He mentioned Eddie Ricks at Clarksville Academy is signed with Morehead State, which isn't far removed from an NCAA berth coming out of the OVC. So, there's some talent, and, we've said it for a long time with football, and apparently it applies to basketball in this area as well. If you can play, they'll find you.
I think so. Yeah. Especially nowadays with the way that these AAU camps and tournaments are.
And I'll tell you, want to throw a shout out to the Basketball Coaches Association of Tennessee and what they've done here over the last 2 or 3 years, where they have put on these showcases over the summer that during, the open period, where coaches can come in and see a bunch of these guys on their high school teams and kind of evaluate them in those environments as well. So,
and you don't have
if
to
you've
be
got
priced out of it.
Right. If you've got a kid that doesn't necessarily have access to AAU or grassroots basketball exposure, he or she can still get that through their high school program by virtue of what BCAT is doing with that. So shout out to Bruce Slatton and those guys for what they're doing to try to help these kids get exposure through their high school programs. So just for what that's worth.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will talk a little college football. There's headlines galore today. So stick around. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll be back after this. This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee sports editor, three-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSSAA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
Other guy in Wham married the best looking girl, Bananarama. So other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice. Welcome back into Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Mo, before we get into the college football specific headlines that are out there, and there's plenty of them, thoughts on the NCAA's next president, Governor Charlie Baker?
Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker, 66-year-old Charlie Baker. And that was kind of the first thought that I had. Why? Not that I have anything against older people. I'm slowly becoming one myself, knock on wood. But I mean, it just seems like you would want somebody who would seem to have a little bit longer of a shelf life, maybe, in that position. That was the first thought I had.
Well, Matt Brown, friend of the show from Extra Points, addresses that in a tweet and in his story that he has on extrapointsmb.com. Essentially, you need a politician and a guy who can talk to politicians, because right now the most important thing for the NCAA is getting, a waiver for being a monopoly, basically. So
you need somebody that thinks like they do, basically.
And you're having to lobby Congress for that. And I think that's exactly why. I mean, this may not be a job that he has for 4 years. He may not have this for 4 or 5 years, but as long as he gets what they need to get from him, I think he's happy to do it, and they need it. So, the antitrust, I don't think we're ever going to see another USFL, NFL antitrust suit that ends in $1 that turns into $3. So, I mean, I think that's kind of, if there was ever an antitrust suit brought against the NCAA and they lost, it would be catastrophic. And so they need someone who can get them a waiver and make sure that they don't have to face any antitrust lawsuits.
Yeah. And, as I'm looking, president of the NCAA, Walter Byers, was appointed executive director in 1951 and served for 37 years. Since then, no one other than Mark Emmert, and I don't know why he did, has held that position for more than 8 years, I don't guess. Emmert was installed in 2010, and so will have been in position for 13 years. And, how the worst guy holds it for the longest period of time is beyond me. But, I mean, Miles Brand was there for 6 years. Cedric Dempsey was there for 8. So it's intriguing to me. But, yeah, I mean, I guess to your point, this guy allows them to more easily address potentially the biggest concern for the NCAA at this point.
That's a heck, you decide I'm not going to run for re-election. I'm just going to go be the head of the NCAA.
Well, I mean, from his standpoint, it's probably a lot less problematic.
Well, it's really interesting because and again, this is Matt Brown's the one who put this together, and I was just reading that. I was reading his story. That's why we got into this. But his college athleticism timeline is very weird.
He's from Harvard, right?
So he played on the junior varsity team at Harvard his freshman year, was making B's and C's. So he took his sophomore year off, got his grades in order, then came back, lettered on the varsity team his junior year.
In what? Basketball?
In basketball.
Okay.
And then became the coach of the JV team his senior year.
Okay.
So there you go. That's a weird trajectory.
Well, it's a weird trajectory. I think the Ivy League kind of leads to some athletic experiences that we don't necessarily relate to.
Yeah, it is something, to say the least. So
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'll be interested to see what happens there. Our headlines, we get into them. Number one, Drew Brees, who, as of yesterday, was heading up a collective, an NIL collective for Purdue, is now pausing that because he is going to be helping coach Purdue in their bowl game against LSU, which one is ironic in and of itself.
Yeah, that is.
Also, he has been granted a waiver by the NCAA to be allowed to recruit a guy who is literally running a collective.
But he's pausing it, Chris.
Okay. You need to, hey, when we get off this recruiting phone call, give my friend Jim a call. He's got something he needs to tell you.
He's got something he needs to talk to you about. Yeah. Relative to the conversation we just had. Yeah.
I mean, no, absolutely not relevant. It is absolutely not related in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I don't know what you were talking about. I don't know what he's got to say. I think he wanted to tell you about how great the hot dogs are here at Purdue. Sure.
Just call him. Trust me.
Call the guy. Call the man.
Call the man.
But this is interesting in that one, we'd kind of heard Drew Brees wanted to get into coaching anyway. Is this him getting his toe in the water?
Sounds like more than his toe.
Well, I mean, it's for just 15 practices in a bowl game, so it's kind of like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you expect he would be in the NFL, right? He doesn't want to coach in college. He doesn't want to go out recruiting, does he?
No. Well, maybe he does.
Sounds like he might if he's running an NIL collective.
Now, is he still doing his broadcasting?
I guess. I guess he's not right now. I mean, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense as to what's going on. But yeah, he'll be coaching on the Purdue sidelines against the Bayou Bengals, who almost every fan of that team was a fan of his. I think
didn't Orgeron do some type of a commercial where part of it was him REEVES or something? I can't do Orgeron.
Yeah.
And can't even try, but
no. No, I don't. I mean, I'm trying to see if there's anything in here that does say. I don't think anything in here talks about his broadcasting career. I guess he's just. I don't know. I don't know about the broadcasting aspect. That's a good question.
Yeah.
But he's going to be coaching this team without their starting quarterback.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see who he's actually coaching. I assume he's working with quarterbacks.
One would think. One of those guys who played quarterback, but he coaches the linebackers or something.
Hey, who knows?
Linebackers coach Drew Brees. Well, I mean, he would know what to do, how to teach him coverage, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, Aiden O'Connell skipping the bowl game. It's the Citrus Bowl, man. You're Aiden O'Connell. You're not even in the top 10 lists of quarterbacks going in the draft. What are you doing?
All the cool kids are doing it.
I guess. That's weird, man. I don't know. Good for you, Aiden. I guess. You don't want to play with Charlie one more time? It's all.
Maybe he's taking the Will Levis test.
Yeah. The fewer times they can see me, the better chance I got.
The better I am. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Other things. Zach Arnett was named the permanent head coach of Mississippi State 3 minutes after we got off the air yesterday. I went to the restroom, pulled up my phone as I was walking to the bathroom, which is like, I don't know, maybe 10 feet from here. And before I got to the bathroom, it was official. And I was like, are you serious? So there you go.
Timing is everything, Chris. And with us, everything happens when we get off the air.
It
so
never fails.
You shouldn't have even been shocked.
It never fails. But so Arnett will be the permanent coach at Mississippi State with a reported 4-year deal.
Yeah, yeah. Which again, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It brings some continuity because obviously Mike Leach didn't lose his job due to an inability.
Sure.
They weren't struggling.
This is a really good transition for a first-year head coach coming into a program that isn't in shambles after having a coach fired or something for going 2-10.
Yeah, yeah. And, you need all the help you can get when you are becoming head coach of a SEC West Division program.
Ain't that the truth?
So,
because it can take a toll on you.
You feel like in some ways he may be in better shape than Hugh Freeze.
I would think he is. With the depending on what they bring in. Philip Montgomery, by the way, named offensive coordinator down at Auburn. Thought that was an interesting hire.
One-time Tulsa head coach, is that right?
And when he was at Tulsa, they threw it.
So, now that's not where he was. He's been somewhere since then, though,
yes,
right?
Yes, he's not coming from Tulsa,
right?
But yeah, he certainly has that same type of offensive philosophy that Hugh Freeze would like to implement and has been successful doing so. So that should be interesting to say the least. But yeah, being an SEC West coach, especially as your first head coaching job, is not easy. And we know being a coach in the SEC West can take a toll on you. We've seen it, leave a guy in a neck brace as he was heading out of town. And that guy who was in the neck brace is now headed to Las Vegas. And I don't know what could possibly go wrong, as Bobby Petrino has been named the offensive coordinator for UNLV under former Missouri coach Barry Odom. Petrino in Vegas, baby.
And as you say in our rental show, what could go wrong?
What could go wrong? This is exactly what I expect. If Ed Orgeron had been the coach, I would have said the exact same thing, because his name was linked to this job, even though he says he never talked to anybody.
And he may not have.
I don't know. But this just doesn't seem like a great.
You got to remember, Ed Orgeron is the guy that said, What door do you want me to go out and when do you want me to leave?
That's right.
This guy doesn't have to work again.
No.
So
I got my money.
Yeah. Why would you?
And if you got money, why would you go to Vegas?
Because all you're going to do is lose it.
Lose it. So seems like a bad plan to me. That's all I'm saying. but Petrino leaving a head coaching job of a team that is pretty good at Missouri State.
As FCS goes, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
you want to know who's happy right now? Heather Williams.
because she doesn't have to deal with him. She's a Missouri State grad.
She's a Missouri State grad, and she was bothered from day one.
As well, she should be.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, if your goal is to get back into FBS head coaching, is it easier to get there from being an offensive coordinator at UNLV than it is the head coach at Missouri State?
Surely Bobby Petrino isn't trying to become a FBS head coach again.
Well, I mean, at Troy or something like that, I can't imagine he would get another Power 5 job, but I mean, he could certainly find his way to, one of the new Conference USA teams, Kennesaw or something like that, or one of these new WAC teams that's coming in.
I don't know, man. I mean, Missouri, like you're saying, Missouri State is a pretty good FCS program. I mean, if I'm 61-year-old Bobby Petrino, I'm probably just
riding into the sunset,
trying to finish it out right there, and
Jim Tressel it.
Stay under the radar, get a few playoff berths, see if we can maybe make a run one year, and just ride it out. Like you said.
So I don't understand this move.
Because again, as a great philosopher, Christopher Wallace once said, more money, more problems.
That's so true.
So, I don't know.
It is an interesting thought. I'm curious, UNLV, again, we've talked about it. They've got the money. They've got the money to be a really good program, and the Mountain West isn't exactly it.
The biggest problem UNLV has probably is figuring out how to do it legally.
There you go. I mean,
because they're so used to, wild west in it, that you mean we can actually pay these guys for real?
Yeah,
for real?
We can actually get. I mean, that's the thing is, and let's be honest. The NFL experiment has clearly tapered off a little bit. Well, let's
knock on wood.
I talked about it all last year, but things have calmed down, and that's great. I think maybe a year under their belts. But college kids in
they're not very good either. The Raiders aren't.
There's that, but college kids in Vegas with money. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just I would struggle with that one. But hey, Tark was successful. Of course, he only had 6 of them.
Well,
instead of 22.
Refer to my last statement.
30. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, he kept them semi out of trouble, right?
Did you not see that picture of UNLV's players in a hot tub with a booster and all that other stuff that went on with Grandmama and that bunch back in the early 90s? I know you were young then.
Well, yeah, but I mean, again, my point being that it wasn't like they were going out and, partying every night on the strip and getting into, getting arrested and that sort of thing. But it was only 6 or 7 kids instead of 30 or 35.
Right. It's a lot easier to manage a 12-person roster than it is a
85.
75 or 85 player roster. So yeah.
And back then they had to live in dorms, in the one dorm. Now they can't live in one dorm, and it's a whole ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe not the best.
As you would say, it's a whole thing. It
is a whole thing. So let's just pump the brakes there. I don't know. Maybe it's a good idea. Maybe it's not. But hey, this will be the first time I've ever been interested in what's going on in UNLV football.
I can tell you the last time I was interested in what was going on with UNLV football, and it was the the start of the 1995 season, I do believe, because I think it was the first game I covered as beat writer for the University of Tennessee.
Huh, there you go.
And they came into Neyland Stadium, and it was 63 to something, I do believe. So
it was a whole bunch for not enough.
And it was never going to be enough at any point. Yeah, I mean, it was bad.
I hear you. Well, UNLV football will at least be on the radar for a little bit, just to see what happens with Bobby Petrino and Barry Odom out in Las Vegas.
I'm sorry. It was the start of the 96 season. It was 62 to 3.
60. Well, you had the 60 in there, and you had the 3 in there.
Yeah.
You missed that other. That's okay. We'll take a break and be joined by TSSAA Executive Director Mark Reeves on the other side. Got a lot to talk to him about, so stick around here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. Back after this.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. We go now to the guest line, where we have TSSAA Executive Director Mark Reeves joining us here. Mark, thanks for taking some time with us.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. How did your convention go this week out at the Gaylord Opryland? Did you get lost?
Well, actually, unfortunately, I was only able to get by there on Friday. We had a number of members of our staff that helped do some housekeeping and prep work in preparation for that conference. But it was the folks, our Tennessee Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association, is doing the heavy lifting for that group with all the national conference, national athletic directors. So I was planning on going, and to be quite honest with you, I had a kid that was injured in a wrestling tournament on Saturday, and that kind of altered my plans for the weekend and the first part of the week.
Well, before we go any further, remind me your son's name.
Name's Connor.
And he's a sophomore this time?
That's correct. Yep.
What's he wrestling?
132.
What did he hurt?
Hurt his head. He took a shot to the head, and he's got a concussion, and he's gonna be a little while. He's in that gradual protocol coming back. Still has some symptoms, so maybe after Christmas before he sees action at earliest.
Hate to hear that.
Yeah.
We wish Connor the best, obviously, and wish mom and dad the best as well. That's no fun watching your kid get hurt.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Maurice. Thank you.
Yeah. When we initially endeavored to get you on, Mark, it was right in the aftermath of potentially one of the biggest rule changes in TSSAA history, I would imagine. The adjustments to the amateur rule, as we are referring to it, in this last week. What's the feedback been like for you guys on that action?
Well, it's garnered a lot of attention. When you say one of the biggest changes, I think the connotations that go with the acronym NIL create a lot of misunderstandings. And when you dive deep into what the change actually does it open the door for name, image, likeness? Yes. Is that the primary reason why the change was proposed? Absolutely not. there were some adjustments that we made that really came through some scenarios that could impact athlete eligibility that we did not feel like were in alignment with what the membership would want and how they would like to see the amateur rule interpreted. One of those included a name, image, likeness scenario that did not involve any mentioning of a school, and it was certainly not a big money deal. It was a student athlete who had created a profile on social media, not referencing the school at all, but there was a link to a merchandise platform where she was getting a cut on some of that merchandise that was being sold potentially, and we're talking about a couple $100 over the course of several months potentially had this move forward. So those kind of opportunities, as we all know in the world of social media, are everywhere and only going to be increasing. And what we saw across the country was a trend where about 20 states had adopted language that would allow for situations such as the one that I just described to be legal. And we felt like it was worth at least putting to the membership as to what would they think in that situation. And the other piece of the puzzle has been that the way the amateur rule was written, it forbids student athletes from giving instructional lessons and getting paid for it. So if you got if my son Connor wanted to give some wrestling lessons to a 5-6-year-old kid, for $10 an hour, the way the rule was written previously, that would not have been permissible. And so using those two examples, when we went to the membership, we said, okay, how would you like this to play out and be interpreted? And they were overwhelmingly in favor of letting those two examples be permissible. Well, with that comes the quote NIL, the big money perception, the reality that you could have, a high-profile athlete in Tennessee that signs a deal that does garner significant money. So that's kind of getting you in the weeds of the background of where the change came from. Is it a big change? Yeah, it's a big change because of the attention that it's getting. But when you talk to the 20 other states who have already opened that door, what we have found is it's a big splash early, and then they're not dealing with a whole lot. There's not a lot of these high school kids that are signing these deals, although there are some.
So, and I love what you guys have done with it. I don't think it's going to end up, at least initially, with a whole lot of businesses involved. I think that there's one apparel company in Lebanon who has 2 or 3 athletes signing. I'm assuming what they're going to be doing is making shirts and pins and whatever with, Jared Hall's name on it. And I think that's a positive. But in the worst case scenario of I own a business and I want a kid from Columbia Academy to go to, my alma mater, and I say, I'm going to give you $10,000 to come do this camp, and I'd really like it if you'd come play at, XYZ Academy for me. Do you guys have any recourse for that?
Well, it depends on whether or not that individual could be, affiliated or associated, directly or indirectly with the school itself. You got hypotheticals that you could throw out there that don't necessarily involve direct exchange of money that could very well be happening, and there are allegations of such, and there are investigations that have occurred for individuals who are trying to find ways in which to get kids at his or her preferred school. For example, I'm a landlord that owns a ton of property, and you know what, I've got a little rental house over here that's in our neck of the woods, and you know what, you make your way over to XYZ school and we'll make sure you got a place to live. Those opportunities for what I think most of our membership would say is awful are out there, and we're already dealing with some of those on a regular basis. Could this lead to something like that? Yeah. And then the charge or the directive, and what becomes very difficult is, are you able to connect? Is there a reason to connect or that particular activity to the school directly or indirectly? And again, we're dealing with that anyway. We're dealing with that right now.
Mark Reeves, the executive director of the Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Mark, expanding on that scenario that you just kind of sketched out there, I would think one of the biggest concerns from the school side is that they may or may not be involved in any of that situation, but they are accountable for it. I mean, they are the ones that would be penalized if there was some type of discrepancy involved there. Is that right? I mean, because they're the only ones that the TSSAA is governing.
True. However, I think when you go back into the weeds of where this proposal originated and where the rule was before, they were accountable for a whole lot more than they are now. In other words, you take that example that I used in the beginning where the kid had no reference to the school, no linking to the school whatsoever. And that student was potentially making money off of a t-shirt sale. Well, that school was accountable for that. And if that showed up the last week of the postseason or the last week of the regular season going into the postseason tournament, the way the rule is written, then the school could potentially be held accountable for something that they had absolutely no involvement in whatsoever. With the change now, it makes a clear distinction that those activities that are unrelated to school, the school's not accountable for. So they're actually accountable for less than they were before the rule change actually took place. So it's, is there more attention being garnered to it? Are schools a little bit more uneasy than they were before the change was? I think yes, because of all the attention that comes for it. And so awareness of what they are now accountable for. They were actually accountable for a lot more before the change, but because there's so much discussion around it, there is some anxiety there. And that's one of the things we're trying to do is tamper down that anxiety and inform our schools with information so that they understand exactly, what this is.
Mark, what was the rush, I guess, for lack of a better word, to make this immediately a thing as opposed to at the beginning of the 23-24 school year?
So, it could have gone either way. And there's probably some that wish, with all the attention that's garnered and the rush to get good information out from our member schools, or some ADs probably wish that would have been the case. Now, the discussion that led to the immediate approval was more so along the lines of we wanted to quickly get control of what the parameters would be in this rule before those opportunities for us to control it were taken away from us by outside entities. In some of these states where these rules had already been passed, they were passed out of fear that, in reality, in some cases where there was discussion within state legislatures about, making name, image, likeness legal for everybody. There was discussion within not just legislatures, but lawsuits, litigation. There's a couple of pending lawsuits. There's at least one in Florida that's a NIL lawsuit for the high school level. So, if there was a court decision that were to come between now and the end of the school year that set precedent that might allow or might set a precedent where schools could be involved in NIL, then we'd be at a loss if our rule contradicted it. So some of the rush came from the membership wanting to make sure that we could write the rule, we could control the rule, and then if the rule needed to be tweaked, we got a rule in place. and we have the power and authority to amend it as needed.
Do you see amendments coming?
I don't know. That'd be an interesting question. I think there are a couple things. For example, we talked about this today in House. I think it's worth bringing up to our legislative council. If you do have a violation, if you have a violation now for a student who violates the independent game participation rules, if they play in a club soccer match during the school season, after the school season has started, the council made an adjustment a few years ago where that student becomes immediately ineligible for the rest of the year, but you don't go back and forfeit games that they would have participated in as an ineligible player. Well, I think there's a lot of merit to at least talking about that same concept if you have a violation of the amateur rule, where once the violation is discovered, then would it be the membership's wish to treat that like an independent game violation where you don't go back and forfeit games that they would have participated in as an ineligible player for violating the amateur rule? You just make them ineligible moving forward. I don't know which way they would lean on that, but that's an example of something that we could discuss and potentially amend if that were the desire of the legislative council.
It's really interesting, and there's a lot of interesting stuff that's going to come out of this. And the one thought that I had a couple of days ago was that, Bernard Childers probably heard NIL, chuckled, and went back to sleep.
You're probably right.
He getting out while the getting's good as far as this thing went, I would imagine. But
I talked to him last week, and we did not discuss this being on the agenda. I've talked to him a number of times. Thankfully, he still answers his phone. But I look forward to the first time I talk with him after this, just to hear his thoughts.
That is exactly what he did. He said, "Well, guess I'll go play with these grandbabies."
That's yeah. Not my problem.
Couldn't be me.
Mark. Other than this, what's up with lacrosse?
Oh, okay.
Well, it's a continuing conversation. I'm going to tell you, Maurice, and this is probably a true statement. I don't think that there has been as many factors that have gone into the decision for adding a sport than what we've dealt with girls lacrosse, boys lacrosse. And that's not a negative statement that I'm making here in any form or fashion. The discussion has been rich. We've all learned a lot, but it's a complicated issue when you start talking about how that decision is made by one governing body, legislative council, and how some of the ramifications that would come down in the lacrosse world are under the operations of the season, which fall under the Board of Control's purview. Mm-hmm. And so meshing all that together is kind of difficult because those entities don't meet together. Those discussions are not had at the same time. So that's been one of the things that's kind of complex. And for example, what I mean by that is, you take girls lacrosse now and the way that they conduct their postseason. Well, how you conduct your postseason and classify and eliminate and get to a championship is under the Board of Control's direction, not the Legislative Council's direction. And what the girls lacrosse community does now is not consistent at all with what we do in all other sports. So you got to have that conversation with the board. Okay, is the expectation to align it with the way that you all classify and qualify and advance to your postseason, or do you give the flexibility for them to continue doing what they're doing? Yes, no, maybe. Then you got to go back to the council. Let's talk about that as we talk more about the discussion. So, officials, same thing. Do you want the fee structure, which is not in alignment in the way that they pay officials with how the Board of Control approves officials' fees? Is that the expectation? Yes. Okay. Go back to the lacrosse group. Okay. Can you be paid this way? Or is everybody going to agree to work? It's just a lot of back and forth to make sure everybody feels good about what value we would bring to the sport if it's sanctioned. That's really the question that the council has to answer is the value that sanctioning boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse by TSSAA, is that value that we would bring worth the risk of the differences in operations that would come in a lot of facets of how that sport operates. And we can't truthfully answer that question, as a staff, but all we can do is lay it all out. Here's what all the information would tell you. So it's been interesting.
So continuing to table this discussion isn't putting it off. It's getting more information and trying to get everybody, the Board of Control, the Legislative Council, and the lacrosse community on the same page.
Absolutely.
Basically. Okay.
And let's just, this is not in any way been floated out there, but I'll just give you an example, what you want to avoid. This is the kind of things you have to talk about you want to avoid. Is let's just say the Legislative Council were to approve girls lacrosse, boys lacrosse. And with that comes an expectation that your fee structure and the way you pay officials have to be like the board would say they have to be. And then you go back and now all of a sudden, all the girls lacrosse, boys lacrosse officials say, I'm not working under those conditions. Like, and we've approved the sanctioning, but they're not going to agree to work, and they haven't said that. I'm just throwing out, those are the kind of hypotheticals that you got to talk through. You got to talk through the fact that a lot of these school coaches are coaching kids in the off season during a time where if they come under our purview, then they would not be allowed to coach them. Well, they might be making some money doing that, coaching club, coaching them in a club, setting in the off season, and the money that they might lose by not coaching that club may not be worth them continuing to coach at the school side. So the schools have to, I might lose my lacrosse coach at this sanction, so they're going to keep coaching club because they can make more money, over there. So
sure.
That's probably a reality at a few places, not all, but those are the kind of things that the council has to sort through, talk with their constituents, those schools that have the sport already that would be impacted. Those are the kind of things that they have to talk through and consider. So it's not us dragging the feet. This is complicated.
Sounds like. Mark Reeves, Executive Director of the TSSAA, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Chris?
It's time to bid adieu to Mark, and we appreciate your time, man. Looking forward to all that comes out over the next few legislative sessions. I know it's going to be, I know you guys are working really hard, and we appreciate the hard work that you guys do.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Appreciate what you guys do. Thanks for all you do for these kids and the publicity that you bring.
Hey, on a personal note, again, my thoughts are with Connor, man. So keep him in a dark room and keep him quiet, and hopefully everything goes well for y'all.
Well, he didn't have much trouble staying in a dark room and sleeping, so
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sign me up, Mark. Yes. We appreciate it, man.
Yep. Thank y'all. Take care now. We'll see you.
All righty.
All right, we'll take a break. We are we're close, but we only have 2 games to pick, so we got to get to them, and we'll get to them right after this on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Stick around. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, While we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Incarnate Word has named a head coach. They'll stay in-house for their next head coach, and their team is now headed to South Dakota for a FCS semifinals game. The flight left at 1:43 Central Time. It's scheduled to land at 4:23 Central Time in South Dakota. Unfortunately, visibility right now at Hector is a quarter mile. Planes need at least a half mile to land. So if Incarnate Word is coming in now, it will not be able to land. 2 American and 2 United flights this afternoon have already been canceled. Good luck. This is your first assignment as new head coach. Congratulations. You've got to figure out a way to not only get your team to South Dakota, but then play the Jackrabbits on Saturday. Congratulations.
So GJ Kinney is not coaching them in this playoff game?
I don't believe so. I believe they have gone to their offensive coordinator, who is from San Antonio, and then is now their full-time head coach. So this is crazy.
That is crazy.
Anyway, we got a couple games to get to. We need to get to them quickly. Tomorrow, the Bahamas Bowl, Miami of Ohio and UAB. It's a 10:30 a.m. kick on ESPN. Just what I want on a Friday is an early kickoff. Please and thank you. Give it to me. UAB 11.5-point favorites in Bryant Vincent's final ride with the Blazers. Mo?
I'm going to go with the Blazers. Wanting to send Vincent out on top. And, you know, UAB's got the leading rusher in the country, so I'm gonna ride with the Blazers here.
Justin?
I'm gonna also go Blazers just because I like that name.
It's a cool nickname. Yep. They do have one of the coolest nicknames and logos in the sport of college football. And Bryant, you're exactly right. Bryant Vincent, that these players love him. They want to send him out on top, and they're going to do that. And they're going to cover that 11.5 for sure.
They're going to blaze through it if I may.
There we go.
There you go.
They're going to blaze it up.
There you go.
UTSA as opposed to USTA, which is what ESPN put on their graphic earlier today.
Oh, goodness.
Not the United States Tennis Association. It is University of Texas San Antonio. They've got Troy, and Troy is a 2.5-point favorite. This game will be right after the other at 2 o'clock on ESPN. We'll be kicking off our show when they kick off this bowl game that I don't even know what it is. I legitimately have no idea what bowl game it is.
Don't matter. It don't matter. I'm going with the Roadrunners.
I'm going to go with UTSA, TTATSA.
the Cure Bowl.
Whichever acronym they would like to
use.
And
I think that one is at the soccer stadium, right? In Orlando.
That sounds right.
You mean football?
Yeah, the Duluth Trading Cure Bowl at Exploria Stadium in Orlando against UTSA. I'm going to go with Troy here, and I'm not a big fan.
What's the spread again?
2.5.
2.5 for the Trojans.
I'm going to go with Troy here. I don't really know why, but I am. So there you go. I've got both Alabama teams covering their spreads tomorrow. Again, 10:30 kick for UAB and Miami, Ohio. 2:00 for USTA.
Yeah.
UTSA and Troy at 2:00 on ESPN. So just set your TV to ESPN and let her go, boys. And that's going to do it for Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid Tennessee Bone and Joint. We come back tomorrow. We have Willie Donick at 2:20. So
We do.
Join us, and we'll pick the rest of the college football bowl games for the next week. So we'll see you then on Main Street Sports today. Have a good one.